I know you've learned a lot from Tom already, and so it's going to be a good time. Look forward to this afternoon. I have the enviable position of keeping you right before lunch, and so I know how that goes. So if you haven't done the Kahoot app, this is something new for me. I'm trying it. It worked so well that my junior high pastor actually started doing this after he saw his pastor do it, and so, it's really kind of cool. If you haven't done this real quickly, you can download the app called Kahoot. And then after you have Kahoot, you type in the number when it invites you to put your number in. And this is a way that you can do games, you can do surveys, you can do interactions. And so what I wanted to do is to ask some questions this morning and then get your feedback. And we can all see the feedback together rather than just hearing from a person or two in that sense. That makes sense? Anybody struggling with getting Kahoot to work? Anybody struggling? That's trying. Okay, if you don't want to play, that's fine, not a problem. I'm not going to make everybody play. I do have to be careful. Okay, some of you are doing pretty good on the nicknames. You just have to be careful on this app because you can put all kind of nicknames in there. And so some of my friends were being really funny with that. So if you do this publicly, just there's another setting that you can approve the nicknames before they go public. And so if you ever use Kahoot, just might be a thing like that, especially if you're working with junior high students, because they can put their own name in there and you look on the screen and go, whoa, who put that name up there? And so you might be careful with all that, okay? But what we're going to do is I've just got 4 questions for you, and we got a lot of people signed in, so that's awesome. And we're going to have 4 questions, and what you're going to do is, if you've not done Kahoot, has anybody not done Kahoot? You've not done this before? Okay, this is going to be awesome. Because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask a question on the screen, and the screen's going to give you 4 options. The options are going to have the wording on the bottom of the screen with the option. And there'll be an answer of the 4 answers, and each of those 4 answers are going to be a different color. So one answer's red, one answer's blue, one answer's green, one answer's red. You'll see it on the screen, and you'll see the answer on the screen. But you will not see the answer on your phone or your iPad. You're just going to see the color. Okay? So you have to look at the screen, and I will read them and give you the colors because the screens are pretty small. There is a screen in the back that may actually be closer for you, but that's better. And I'll give you the 4 options, and then on your device, you'll be able to participate and put in your answer. Okay? But you do that on your screen, but the answers are not going to be on your phone. The answers are only on the screens, but the colors are on your phone or device. Make sense? And then we'll look at all the surveys together. All right, so we'll practice this one. My session is entitled, How to Have a New Church by Sunday. That's the title of the session. How many of you are preaching Sunday? You're going back on Sunday. How many of you are going to stay in Branson? Okay, thank you for staying in Branson. I really wish we had more time to let you spend some of your money in town, because when you spend money, it helps my church people, which helps me. And so I wish, Tom, we'd give them some time off in the afternoon to go spend some money, but maybe next time we'll do that. But here's what we're going to do is you put that number in your gang. You should be up here. And so we've got Rookie and Will and Kendra and another Will and Felicia and MPH. That's really kind of nice. And so that's good. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start that. So Danny, if you'll start this question for you. The first question is that we're going to do is related to have a new church by Sunday. Here's question number 1. How many of you would like a new church by Sunday? Red would mean yes before this Sunday. Blue, yes in the next year. Yellow, sometime in the future. Or green, no, I love my church. Now you have that on your phone. You can see it from my phone. I've got those 4 options. You choose which one makes sense for you. And then we've got 22 of you already answered so far of this. 24, 25, we can check this all live. Isn't that kind of cool? I'm going to enter my answer as well. We've got 36 of you are playing so far. And so we got 37. Anybody struggling? Anybody's not working? Anybody you're saying it's not working? Okay, everybody's working. Okay, let's go to the answers on this. And so, it went back too fast. Just said that once, Danny, on that next one. Here's your second question. We'll come back. Second question, how many of you would really be, Daniel, why don't you stop this? I didn't get to see the answer for the first time. So let's go back and try that one more time, if we can. And so if you may have to skip all the way and restart. We may have to log back in on this one. And so just give us a couple of seconds here. That's the reason we're practicing. We practice, because I really want to do this during a sermon time, to get answers from the community, from the whole body, to ask a question, and this is a way they can all download it and give instant feedback, all right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ask you to do it again this first time. So stay logged in. Same question for that first time. How many of you want a new church? So you can answer again on this one. Red is yes before this Sunday. Blue, yes in the next year. Yellow, sometime in the future. Or green, no, I love my church. And maybe if we can let it run through and then just hit skip, not skip and next. If we can do that on that. 36, I think we had 37 last time on this answer. Okay, there we go. So there's the 37th person joined us in that. And so just hit skip and see if we can see the answer on this. Just hit it once and we'll see. So the answer that we get, let's see if it rolls. 14 of you would like a new church before this Sunday in this room. 9 of you would like one in the next year. 8 of you said yes sometime in the future. And 6 of you go, no, I like my church. Okay? So here's what we can do. If you want a new church by Sunday, we can do this. We can do it today. I know it doesn't make sense. We can't, but we sure can. Because here's what we can do. We can all put those 14, 19, 8, that would be 27, 31 of us, except for the 6 and the 15 of you who don't know how to play, and the 5 of you who don't want to play. That's fine. But for the rest of us, the 27 of us, 31 of us, whoever it is, we can all right now write the name of our church on a piece of paper. I could pass a hat, and then you could draw out another name, and then you could show up this Sunday and go, ta-da, I'm your new pastor, I have a new church, right? We could do that. In fact, let's see how many of you would like to do that. Let's go to the next question, if we can, Miss Danny. How many of you would really be willing to take a random assignment like that? You'd really want to do that. If you believe that, yes, it really is that bad, no question, I'm putting my church name in right now, then you hit red. If you're like, well, maybe, it depends on the day, you can hit blue. If you're going, well, no, at least I know what I'm dealing with in my church. I may not like it, but I know what I'm dealing with, would be yellow. Or green, those 6 of you earlier who said, no, I love my church. And so you can hit those answers again. Red, yes, it's really that bad. Blue, maybe. Yellow, no, at least, even if I want a new church, at least I know what I'm dealing with in mine. Or green, I love my church, all right? There's 36 of you, so there's still one. Oh, that's 37. And let's go to the answers. 14 of you say, no, never mind, I'll take what I've got, because I love my church. Now, wait a minute. Just a minute ago, only 6 of you loved your church. All of a sudden, 8 more people love their church. So see, we've already solved the problem just already with 2 questions. 10 of you are going, no, that's okay. I'll take what I've got. That's okay. But there's still 3 of you today go, absolutely. Where's the hat? I'm putting them in. I want to go someplace else. And 10 of you are going, I don't know, maybe not on that. Okay, that's kind of telling. Isn't that horribly sad, though? That there's 3 people who are in this room pastoring who are so beat up, so burnt out, so alone, so sad, so separated, that they would be willing to become a Methodist, right? That's what the Methodists do, right? They just swap people out all the time, and you get a good pastor, and you get rid of them, and you get somebody you don't like. Well, maybe you're not going to give up baptism. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if you're that bad off, you might give up a lot of things on that. But there's 3 of us, and there's really actually 13 of us who go, yeah, I'd rather have a random assignment. I'd rather go someplace else. And I don't mind pulling a name out of a hat. But well, tell me a little bit about that situation in that church. Let's go to the next question here and see if this one is. If you can describe your church today and be totally honest so that nobody can see it, you would say, my church is mostly red, old and tired, blue, uninterested or worldly, yellow, resistant to change, and green, mean and resistant to change. So there's not a whole lot of positive answers to that one, I know. And maybe you're not going to answer this one. Some of you are going very quickly answering. But red is, if I describe my church, old and tired, uninterested or worldly, resistant to change, mean and resistant to change. Now there's no answer for the 6 of you who loved your church, so I'm sorry about that one. You just have to skip this one. But of all these answers, which one is your church mostly of those things? Red, old and tired, blue, uninterested, worldly. Okay, we got 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Okay, so you found some of these things. Of those 4 options, let's go ahead and get the answer on that, Danny. The answer of the review of this one is 17 of you would say resistant to change. And 1 of you says mean and resistant to change. Well, that's good news. I was expecting that number to be significantly higher, actually. And so I'm feeling pretty good about the church now. And then I know you're stuck with some of the questions, and so you can't answer what's really true. But 11 of you are just saying, man, they're just old and tired. They're not necessarily mean, not necessarily resistant. They're just old and tired. And you know what? The older I get, the more tired I'm becoming. I don't know if I'm the only one in that boat. And I think we got one fourth and final question on this we'd like to ask you. The real problem with me, if I'm going to be a part of the problem in my setting, is that red, I know what needs to be done, but I'm afraid to do it. I know what needs to be done, but I'm afraid. Blue, I really don't know what to do to help my church. Yellow, I know what to do, I just don't want to do it. Yellow. And green, I don't want to know what to do. I'm done. Right? So if you got one of those answers, red again is I know what needs to be done, but I'm afraid to do it. Sometimes fear invades us as pastors. Blue, I do not want to do, I do not know what to do is blue, sorry. I do not know what to do is blue. Yellow is I know what to do, I just don't want to do it. Sometimes I'm there. And then green, I do not want to know what to do, I am done. Got 30 answers. We'll wait for a couple more answers here and get involved in just a second with that. 33 answers. 33 answers, staying at 33. Some of you are done already. You're not even going to answer the question. That's how done you are. I'm done. And so our answers are 18 of you would say, I don't know what to do. 8 of you say, I know what needs to be done. I'm just afraid to do it. You're like I am. You have no other skills. There's no other person that's going to hire you. And so I don't have anything else I can do. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm limited. None of you, though, say that you're done. You'll swap churches out, yes, but I'll go someplace else and start over. But I'm not done. That's really encouraging to me today. Because it shouldn't surprise us, because that's why you're here. Right? I mean, that's the reason you're here on a Saturday morning. Why in the world would you be in church on a Saturday? Nobody's paying you to be here on a Saturday. Well, what I want to do is to talk very quickly in our time, because I know food is almost here, and talk to you about how to have a new church by Sunday. So we're going to swap over to the other software program, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how you can have a new church by this Sunday. Now, some of you are going, that is impossible. There's no way to do that. But it really is possible. In fact, I can promise you that it's true and it can happen. And it can happen for you by Sunday. So what we're going to do is to kind of cover a couple of things. Now here's a couple of things I have to say at first. Number one, I am assuming several things about you before I start today. I'm assuming these things. I'm not going to talk about them, but I'm going to assume them. Number one, I assume that you love Jesus. Okay, I'm going to assume that. All right. I'm going to assume you believe in the Bible, that you are an inerrantist, you are plenary verbal inspiration, that you're all those things. I'm going to also assume that you are preaching exegetically, if not expositionally, from the Scriptures, because you believe that it's not your words or my words that make the change in people's lives, but it's the Scripture that makes the change in people's lives. I'm going to assume that's what you believe. I'm going to assume that you are living a holy life, that you are striving to be holy in all the things that you do, and I'm assuming that you're praying constantly about your calling. I'm also assuming that you're called of God to be in the role and position that you're in. So I want you to know I'm making all of those assumptions when I talk about what I'm talking about. Because if you have got a breakdown in one of those areas, then what I'm going to say to you is not going to be very helpful until you get one of those areas corrected in your life. So when I talk today, I don't want you to think that I don't believe in the Bible. I do. I don't want you to believe that I don't believe the power is in the Bible. The power is in the Bible's words, not in my words or in your words. But some of us are doing all of those things, and we still feel like we're stuck. Now, if you're not praying, the solution's easy. Start praying. If you don't believe the Bible, start believing the Bible. If you're not teaching the Bible, teach the Bible. All those things are assumptions before I begin today. So before you label me a heretic or any of those kinds of things or using worldly methods or those kinds of things, I want you to know I assume all of those, and I'm assuming that you're doing all those things, but you're still stuck where you are. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Sometimes I get in trouble sometimes because I start with assumptions. My wife says that I typically start in paragraph number 3 that she's not got to hear, and so I get to paragraph number 4 and I look at her like, why don't you understand? She's like, well, you didn't start in the first paragraph. You started in paragraph number 4. And so I want to make sure that with you guys and ladies today that we're starting in paragraph number before. Here's what we're going to talk about. How is it that we can have a new church by Sunday? Because it's true. You can have a new church by Sunday. Even tomorrow being Sunday, you can still have a new church by tomorrow. Now you're going, well, maybe not. I don't know if I can or not. But you really can, because the problem is you. You're the problem. If you want a new church by Sunday, it's not going to be getting a new building. It's not going to be getting new people. It's not going to be getting a new sign. It's not going to be any of those things. You're going to have to be different when you go back tomorrow. Most of you are going back tomorrow. In order to have a new church, you can have one not by making them different, not by sending them someplace, but by you yourself becoming different. Seeing them different. Experiencing what you experience on a regular basis differently. Because I can't control them. You can't control them. But there is one that you can control. And that's you. I have a teenager that's graduating high school, or at least that's what he's telling me he's doing. And so I'm going with anticipation to see his name on that little list. And that oldest boy is just like me. With a little bit of hair and about 15 pounds lighter, and he is just like me. And I've spent most of my life trying to get him to do things. You want to guess where that ends up most of the time? With two very frustrated people. Because I can't make him do what I think he ought to do. And just because I say he ought to do it, he's not going to do it. Why? Because he's just like me. And you can't tell me what to do. And why? For 17, 18 years of his life, I think that I can make him do what he ought to do. I do not know. See, it wasn't church people that caused me to lose my hair. It's my oldest son. And I love him and he loves me. And we are going to be great friends. In fact, we may have our best relationship of the days ahead. But I tell you the truth. If you're spending all of your time trying to get somebody else, getting your church to do what they ought to do, without you first doing what you're supposed to do, you're just going to frustrate them, and you're going to frustrate yourself, and you're going to be willing to come into this room and say, I'll go anywhere but where I am. Now, the problem is this, though. Wherever you go, you will be there. I've been in 9 different churches. I'm only 46 years of age. I've been in 9 different churches, full-fledged member and all those kinds of things. I've been in small churches, 50 people on Sunday morning. I've been in bigger churches, 2,000 plus people. Every church is different, and every church is the same. Have you ever gone to a new church and you didn't see the same people that were in the other church, but you know who they are? And you can give them a different name because they look different, they act different, they have different names, but you go into that and go, oh, I remember you. Your name has changed. This is when we begin to believe in reincarnation as Baptists, right? And we begin to go, I know you. You were a man in that other church, but you've got the same spirit as old brother. I'm not going to use any names because that may be your name. But they're there. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but every problem you've ever had, you're the only commonality between the problem. Why? It's because God is working on us. And He's going to use them to work on us. And God's makeup tests are always more difficult than the first test. So what I want to talk about is you and me, so that we can be ready, so that we can take new tests. My goal in life is this. My goal in life, you have great mission statements out there, and some of you have very spiritual ones. My mission statement is this: always make new mistakes. It's my mission statement. Not very inspiring, is it? But if I can just keep making new mistakes, which means I'm no longer making what? The old mistakes, then I'm making progress at some point. So here's what we want to try to do. Only you have the power to see your church differently. They're going to be the same they were when you left them. You show back up on Sunday, they're going to be the same. Nothing's happened to them. Your church building didn't automatically move to a better location. The paint wasn't repainted while you were gone. The pews are still green. If your pews were green when you left them, they're still green. But you can be different because you can see it all differently. You can see beyond what you've been seeing when you walk in that place. You have the power to do that. If you're right about your church, just write it down right now. Quickly, no one's going to see it. What are the 3 words that really do describe your church? What are the 3 words that you would use to describe your church? I only gave you 4 options earlier, but just write it down really quickly. 3 words. What describes your church? Maybe it's positive things. I'm assuming it's positive things, I hope. Though you're on Saturday morning trying to figure out how to help revitalize, so maybe it's not leaning that direction. But if you were to write 3 words about your church, what would they be? Would they be old, tired, grumpy, happy, sad, any of the other dwarfs that were out there, sneezy? Maybe you have one of those kinds of churches. But what 3 words would you use to describe your church? Well, here's the option, here's the goal. That now, if you decide to be different, then you are no longer going to see them in that way. Unless they're sneezy, and then they're probably going to be sneezy no matter what. But if you've come here saying, you know what, I got an old church, you can go back and you don't have to see them as old. If you came here and see them as a church, have a church that is resistant to change, you can go back tomorrow and go, this is a new church. They're not resistant to change. I'm not going to see them as resistant to change. Because here's what I know about me, and maybe about you. I begin to, based on previous experience, predict how things are going to happen in the future. Do you have that with some people in your church? And they walk up and you go, oh, really? You can go in as if you didn't know them. It's going to take a little work. And you can see them differently when they're coming. Oh Lord, look, you're sending me a sinner to work on today. You can go into your church this next week and go, you know what, I have opportunity to attack sin in all directions. Right? Isn't that what General Custer said? I have the goal and the opportunity because I'm now surrounded so I can attack the enemy in any direction. Has anything changed? No, except the way that I see it. See, here's our problem. We look around the world and we see the world going to heck in a handbasket and we talk about how bad that is. Oh, my friends, we have opportunity in every direction to preach the gospel to sinners. We don't have to go looking anywhere to find sinners anymore. Can you imagine if our job were to go find sinners and you lived in a community where there were no sinners? How frustrating that would be. You don't have that problem. In fact, your sinners are coming to you in your building, thinking they're for God sometimes. And some of them contribute, minimally maybe, to your salary. What do you mean? You're going, Now, I'm doing the same thing, because I've got a woman in my church, and I got a couple of men in my church here, so I'm only going to use examples of women in my church so that they don't think I'm thinking about them. But I have a wonderful, sweet woman, or at least that's what she thinks of herself, and she oftentimes will come and critique my sermons. You ever have anybody like that? And because it's Branson, I have to stand in the back of the room and greet everybody's hands. That's what we do in Branson. If the stars can do that, well, the preacher's got to do that as well, right? And so she came up to me just this past couple of weeks, last Sunday, and she said, you know what, I liked your sermon today, but I did not like your Easter sermon. Okay, thank you. Well, why do you do so-and-so? And so then I just have to say thank you very much for that, and shake her hand and walk away. Right? And I have to remind myself, she's a sinner, which she reminds me sometimes too, by the way. She didn't have to remind that. But my job is to lead sinners toward Christ. That's my calling. That's my goal. And God's bringing one to me that I don't have to go looking for her. She's going to find me. Isn't that even better? Even when I try not to find her, she's still going to find me. So I have an opportunity to see her differently and respond differently to her to accomplish my calling. Now, you're no longer going to have to treat them that way. Whatever way you've defined on your sheet, on your paper, you don't have to treat them that way anymore. You can treat them differently. And you know how to do this, right? You know how to do this, right? When the tither, the big money man or woman in your church, when they're sick, somehow you're able to make time to go to the hospital to see them. Aren't you? Just build it. So don't tell me that you can't treat people differently than the way they really are, because even though they're mean, you're going to make sure they're in the hospital. In fact, some of you go to the hospitals because you know if you don't, you'll be in trouble. Anybody else there with me? If I don't go see so-and-so, I'm going to be in trouble next time, so I'm going to go. And you've already lost the spiritual credit for going for the wrong motivation, but you at least get some earthly credit for actually doing your job. Right? So you can go back to your church tomorrow or a week from tomorrow, and you can treat them differently because you're seeing them differently. You can also leave them differently. You can go in there and say, well, I've tried this 15 times, but it's never worked before. They've never responded. But you have opportunity then for God to show up and show out, because God loves taking the things that don't do a certain way and turning them into something. Right? He's done that with you before, hadn't he? And you have the opportunity to lead them that way, because now you're going to model a different way of following Jesus. Because you're going to be different. See, a lot of times we want people to be different, but we're not going to change in order to be an example for them. In fact, sometimes we contradict the scriptures because we preach one thing and we live something else. And we are, though the power's in the Word of God, and the Scripture's Word, and God can use a donkey to communicate the message, praise God for right. But sometimes we are counteracting what we're preaching because of the way that we are and the way that we're living. As pastor, as leader, as pastor's wife of that church. And pastor's wives, those of you who are here, your job is 50 times harder than our job.
Amen.
It's 50 times harder, at least. Don't have to do a survey on that one, do I? I've got that one. Right? Because you see, if you talk about me, I'm okay. If you talk about me. Well, I'm not really okay, but I can handle it. But if you talk about my wife, we're going to scrap. You'll probably beat the snot out of me, but I'm going to scrap with you. And every time she goes and hears a criticism of you, guess what she can't do? Because you've told her not to beat up anybody. You probably have had to say that. You said, be nice to that person. Don't talk bad about them. And you're forcing that person to be repressed, which turns to being depressed because of where she is. But if you can live a different way, you can have a different church. You can be a different model of things. So here's the thing, from Andy Andrews, he said, somebody I've been listening to just lately. He says this, perspective, because that's what I'm talking about. You can have a new church by Sunday because you're going to have a different perspective about that church. Not that you get another church, but you have a different perspective about that. He says this, perspective is the only power that can radically change your result without changing your circumstances. That's what we're talking about, right? Your results can be different even though nothing else changes in your church. Nothing else will change. But if you change and you see the way things are the way things are, the way things they could be, or what they might be, then you can have different results. A lot of us, and this is my soapbox, I won't go there because I don't have time, but a lot of us want a different result instead of getting a different response. In fact, here's what I mean. We want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. We just want people to do something different in response to that. Tom's already talked about that. But if we want a different result, then we have to make some changes in that, and the change begins with us. Perspective is the only power that can dramatically change your result without changing your circumstances. So what I'm going to try to do in the next few minutes is encourage you some ways that you might need to change in your congregation. And by the way, this is very timely for me, because we are a congregation that had rapid, incredible growth, and we're plateaued. And so we're going through some of these processes now, and most of the reason we're plateaued is because of me as leader. And so I'm sitting back there taking notes, because I need to learn how to do this. In fact, you may be doing a great season of growth. There'll come a time when you'll plateau. It just happens. So if you're growing today, and you just showed up to be all proud about how fast you're growing and how great your church is, and so you're going to come to us and talk about how great it is, that's wonderful. Your time is coming. It just comes. And so what will you do to go through these 7 steps, these 7 pillars that you've already heard about today? Where are you on that circle? In fact, some of you are probably doing that, weren't you? You're looking, okay, here's where I'm in that circle. Well, we're in that need of revitalization, and a lot of it's based upon me needing to change who I am. So here's my sermons. I want you to know about, here's a trick on all my sermons. I preach really what I need to hear. And people get to kind of listen in on that. That's what's happening today. I'm preaching to myself, and you kind of get to hear. And if something takes connection with you, awesome. If it doesn't and you don't like it, just don't come tell me, okay? Because there's already somebody who's got that job. Church. So how are we going to change you? How are we going to change you? Well, here's what we're going to do. There's 2 conditions for change. Again, Andy Andrews is this comedian. I just read his book. It says, Sweat the Small Stuff. That's what I think his latest book is. Kind of a comedian, a Christian follower. But he says this, there's 2 conditions that are required for any change. 2 conditions. Some of you may know this. There's 2 conditions for change. Number 1, people change when they see what's in it for them. Most of us are Baptists in this room, right? Or at least we attend Baptist churches. How many of your Baptist churches still have outhouses connected to them? How many of your Baptist churches no longer have and never have had air conditioning? How many of your Baptist churches have electricity in the room? Don't tell me Baptists can't change. Because there were times that your church, your people, if they lived long enough, if their congregation, if you have a long history, we're coming up on 75 years here at First Baptist Branson. Some of you I know, we're newbies, I'm sorry, just 75 years old. Some of you are in churches that are 375 years old because John the Baptist started it. And so praise be to God for you. But Baptists do make changes. We just got to show them how this change benefits them. You change all the time. You make changes. Changes don't take necessarily a long time. Change happens immediately. It's when you go from the flip phone to the smartphone, right? It happens. It happens when your car goes off the side of the road and now you've had an accident. Change is immediate. Your people will change when they see what's in it for them. Not what's in it for you, but what's in it for them. That's how you change. And then number 2, the second condition that's necessary is that people change when you can prove that it's better for them beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are the 2 conditions Andy Andrews says that people will change. We had a sale in Branson not too long ago, and it was a going out of business sale, and it was a Hush Puppy / Merrill shoe store. And Merrill shoes and boots were $29.99, every pair of Merrill shoes. And somebody told me that. And I knew the person, and because I knew the person, I was able to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that that person is telling me the truth. See, sometimes you don't have to always show me. We're in Missouri, right? Show me state. Sometimes you can tell me, but it's got to be somebody that's trustworthy. And the facts kind of have to match. Like, we did have a Hush Puppy shoe store in town. If they were telling me there was a sale and there's not a shoe store there, then I wouldn't believe that. But I can tell you what, more people talked about the $29.99 Merrill shoe sale in First Baptist Church Branson than we've talked about Jesus. We did. We did. I heard about it. I went and I checked it out. I told my staff members, who I don't pay very much money, who are always interested in a good deal, I'm like, hey man, there's some Merrill boots that are $29.99. And they went. In fact, I went back the next day, and guess who I saw? Half of my congregation was in the Merrill shoe store for $29.99 because there was a beyond a reasonable doubt, and this change was beneficial for them, and they turned out in droves for that. So we got to prove it to them. So what do we got to do? Well, if you can change your perspective about your church, and you come to believe that, and now you feel the benefit of that, and you now have a different attitude about that, and your face tells you that, and what you communicate to people tells them that, and you begin to change that perspective about your church, other people will capture that. Tom was talking about this toward the end of his session just a few minutes ago. You know, putting yourself on fire, which I don't recommend exactly that methodology, but I know what he was talking about, right? That we begin to believe the gospel. Amen. And we begin to believe it changes people's lives. I think you're with me right now, so see if I can stop you now at this point so that you're not with me. But sometimes the smaller church no longer believes the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I've been, quote, a big church. We're not that big, but we're considered a big church by some of you, and you come in this building and think that we're big. We're not big. But sometimes I hear this. I hear, well, we're preaching the gospel in our small church, and nobody's coming because the gospel must not work, so whatever First Baptist Church Branson is doing cannot be the gospel because people are going there. that make sense? It's not right, but does that make sense? Because you've given up the gospel. You think, well, I'm preaching and it's not working, so the gospel no longer works. So whatever that church is doing to reach people, they must not be preaching the gospel because we're doing the gospel and the gospel not working. And you would never admit to saying that? And I've run into some people who feel that way, that the gospel doesn't work anymore. And so it's got to be some kind of trick or some kind of thing that they're doing, whether it's the music or the lights or the smoke or the mirrors or whatever it is. They're not really preaching the gospel because you begin to believe the gospel doesn't work. You need to repent of that. Amen. And if those who think that changing your music is going to make the difference, is going to change your church, they need to repent of that. Because those things are helpful. Those things are beneficial. You've got to understand your market. You've got to understand who's there. But all those things are not the ultimate change that needs to happen. They're just the beginning point to reach people with the gospel. Because there's some things that just not going to turn, people are not going to turn on. They're going to turn off if they see it. And you're not giving the gospel a chance. All right, I'm preaching today. I'm sorry. Change your perspective about your church. We can have you change your perspective about yourself. You see, some of you think, well, I'm in a small church. Nobody cares what I do. Convention doesn't put me on the platform. And let's not be worth it. I'm not valuable what I'm doing in my small church, in my community. And you begin to think that you're not worthy of the calling of being a pastor. And you're not. But none of us are. Because you begin to think that certain people are worth the calling. They're not any more worth the calling than you are. You're in the same boat with them. Just because you don't have a big church or just because you don't have whatever it is that you look at, I have facility envy every time I go to another church. It's one of my sins that I have. Because I go into a new building and I'm like, crud, they've got that. Man, I want that so bad. Like a children's building on the main level. Man, if I could just have that, that's what I need. Look at all that parking they have. I mean, I go everywhere. Well, that's new. I wish I had something new. And I begin to think that they're not worthy of that, which they're not. But then I begin to think maybe they are. But if you change your perspective about who you are, it may change. Got to keep going, sorry. Change your perspective about your calling. You are an ambassador of the most holy God of the universe, who created the universe just by His will. His words caused everything to come into being that's come into being. My words do nothing. Son, can you give me some ice cream? Nope. Can't even get ice cream out of the refrigerator through my son. God speaks, and it all begins. God is perfectly holy. He is self-reliant. He needs nothing. You and I need oxygen. We need some Christian chickens to sacrifice themselves for us to keep going. We need a little few. We have all these needs. God has none of those needs. In fact, God doesn't even need you to have a conversation with because He exists in plurality. He doesn't need the fellowship that you provide to Him. He doesn't need you to do anything for Him. And yet, this incredible God wants to have a relationship with you so much that part of the Trinity comes and dies. I can't understand that. Can't explain it to you. But part of God comes, becomes man, lives the perfect life, substitutes Him for us, and invites us into relationship. And then more than that, He calls you to wear His name badge and to put on His Renovate shirt. That's a cool Renovate shirt. I hope you brought me one. Maybe you didn't. Are those Renovate socks also as well? Those are just other options that you have there. Okay, I don't know those are other options. But God calls you to put on His number, His brand, His logo. Do you know how much money is spent in the United States of America by people buying football jerseys and NBA jerseys and all this other kind of stuff? And the material that's built on those is not any better than the material that says Walmart brand on it. It's the same stuff. But you put a brand on it, all of a sudden the value of that goes incredibly high. And God has asked you, called you, invited you to put His brand, and He has sent you as an ambassador into a sinful community. And you're frustrated. Really? You've forgotten what you got called to do. Because you are pushing back darkness with light under the authority of the Most High God. So you got caught up in spending your time trying to get budgets through and trying to get carpet color changed. You're trying to get people to like you. You have missed your calling, because that will kill you. If that's what you spend your life on, you are going to die a frustrated, warped old man or old woman. Because that's not why God called you. He called you to push back the darkness in His name, through His power. And who cares how many people show up to hear that message? You're not worthy of even knowing that message, but telling that to anybody else. And yet He's got 10 or 12 people showing up saying, I want to hear that. And you go, well, we're supposed to have 50 this time of year, and I've only got 15. Really? You got 15 people that are showing up, that are saying to you, tell us about this holy God that you know that you're His ambassador for. And you're going, woe is me. Sorry, I'm preaching today. Sorry. Here's the good news, though. The only move that matters is the next one. Doesn't matter what happened last week. Doesn't matter what happened last Sunday. Doesn't matter what happened in the business meeting. Doesn't matter what the deacons are planning. Doesn't matter any of those things. The only move that matters is your next one. Because tomorrow, you can have a new church. Because you're new. Because you're going to see people that have the capacity through the power of the Holy Spirit to literally turn your community upside down. For good. For good. For good. They're probably already turning it upside down for bad already. But that can be leveraged. That can be changed. You're saying it won't work, they won't change. You've tried it before. And you do not know who God is. And you need to pick up the Bible, whatever translation you want to use. You can even read it on electronic devices, that's okay. Or you can actually have a printed version of that, that's fine. You can read it on the wall, you can read it on the floor, and see what God is capable of doing. And that same God is still alive and well today.
Amen.
And He can make those changes. That's right. But it's going to begin in you. If nothing else, you start doing a better job where you are, it may lead to other doors opening for you, if nothing else. Because I'm going to talk very quickly about how you can change. And you go, well, this is not going to change people. Maybe it doesn't, but it might. Somebody else might see you doing a better job, and they might be interested in you. Okay? And you go from your church and to someplace else that maybe they're more ready for that. That's okay. You still have a responsibility to do your very best. And the worst thing that can happen is if you do your very best, somebody else notices that and wants to get you out of there. But let God be the one who does that, not yourself. Because if you remove yourself too quickly, God may take a lot longer to place you someplace else. Because you've not proven to be faithful. If nothing else, you'll become what everybody else is looking for, and you're being paid by your people to practice. My first church, oh, praise be to God that I'm not at that first church. My first church, we brought the revival preacher back who was the pastor of this church, and all he could say all week long was, I'm so glad I'm not here. That's what he said to me over and over and over and over. The guy before me was fired by the church. The guy before that guy was out of ministry completely. And the third guy, that guy, is now preaching the revival. And all he can tell me is, I'm so glad I'm not here. What does that say to me? Well, sometimes when you just knock your head up against that wall, there's only two options. Sometimes the option is either knock the wall down or stop banging your head up against the wall. There is a moment where God sometimes does write, was it Ichabod? Isn't that what he writes about? Yeah. But until he does, you get to keep practicing loving sinners. Yep. And you've got a great opportunity, don't you? Some of y'all are like, you're in the big leagues of learning how to love sinners. You are learning some stuff right now, aren't you? And they frustrate you so much, and God's like, hey, I am working on you. And I'm rubbing some stuff off with sandpaper. And some of it's a sledgehammer He's knocking off of you. And He's got you right in the right place to do His work on you. And they're paying you. Probably not enough, but they're paying you partially to learn how to deal with sinners. How cool is that? He He's taking you to some dead places so that you see what dead looks like so that you never get back there again. Right? What's my goal in life? To make new mistakes? Some of my mistakes I've learned to ask more questions with the pastor search committee. That's one of my things. I'm like, ask you 4 more questions about that. If nothing else, here's what we're going to do. You've got to make some commitments here. What are your commitments? Your commitment is, I will become a person that other people want to be around. Because if you're going to be a leader, you're going to need people around you to lead them.
That's right.
And if you're not a person people want to be around, then it's going to be hard to lead people. Because they don't want to be around you. And they're not going to be. Again, assumptions. God is God. Bible is true. I'm preaching the Bible. I'm loving people. I'm praying. I'm being holy. All those things are assumptions. Now I'm talking about you. Your commitment is that you've got to become a person that other people want to be around, because Jesus was this incredible person that everybody wanted to be around. Until he said about eating flesh and stuff like that, and some people kind of weirded out and they left. But up until that time, what kind of crowds were Jesus convening? Big crowds, right? Go back and read the scriptures. The entire town went out to see him. Everybody, these incredible words. Because he had this incredible message, and now he's given you that message as an ambassador of him. Don't tell me you're going to repel people as a person. Here's your commitments. Number 1, you got to love people.
Yes.
Real people. Not figurative people. Not collective people. Not just some people. But people. Don't you want to be around a person who loves you? And there's something about that. You got to be a person that encourages people. Are you a people encourager? I like being around people who are encouragers. Even if they're lying to me, I still like being around them. You're great, Neil. I like you. I'm going to hang around you. You know that's not true. I like it. Don't you want to be around somebody encouraging? Are you being encouraging as a pastor? I like people who help me. Are you helping people? Are you helping people? Even if it means coming down off the high horse to the holy hill and mowing somebody's grass for them. That's helping. Are you helping people? Are you leading people to purpose? You know the biggest question people ask? What's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I built for? There's nothing to live for. And you have that opportunity to help people find their purpose in life. Because their purpose is to know and glorify God. And you get that job. You have the most important skill set that people are looking for in this world. I wish somebody could tell me, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing in this life? And you're called to do that. When I'm led to my purpose, I am a different person. So here's your commitments. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to become a person that other people want to be around by, here's some actual hits, by being positive. Not that I'm positive this church is going to close in 5 years. Not that kind of positivity, okay? I'm not talking about that. And you don't have to be positive about you. You don't have to be positive about your church. But guess who you get to be positive about? God. Jesus Christ, God, the Father, the Holy Son, the Holy Spirit, the Son. You're not selling just brown sugar water. You're not selling donuts. As great as Chick-fil-A is, even Chick-fil-A makes a mistake every once in a while. Guess what you get to promote? A God who never makes a mistake. How can you not be positive and excited about that every day? I know. Sometimes I don't wake up happy and positive, excited about that. Because I forget this. I'm not saying you have to be positive about all the mean people in church. I don't say you have to be positive about your location. I don't be positive about the South. I'm not saying that. But you have something to be positive about. The salvation of Jesus Christ, who's come and died for sinners. How we mess this message up, God has sent me to tell you that you can be forgiven for everything you've ever done. Every sin can be wiped away. How do we mess up that message where people don't like us? Who doesn't want that message? And I know all the things, don't get there with me. I'm just talking to you about our ultimate message, by being positive. How can you do it? By respecting all. Don't go looking for a fight.
That's right.
It'll come. You don't have to look for it.
Yep.
Right? But you don't like the flower. A good buddy of mine went to this church, and he was sent out to another church, and he got so mad at that new church because there was a picture of Jesus hanging on the wall. And he went preaching against that picture, talking about how bad that picture is. That's an icon. And some of those people came to our church that he came from. And guess who is pictured in stained glass in our worship center? Jesus. And he's like, they're like, what do you mean you're against that? Look at the church you came from, the church that you were happy with. Look, they got a picture of Jesus up there. What are you mad about our picture of Jesus? There was no sense in arguing, preaching against a picture. That had some kind of meaning to them. It didn't have any meaning to you, but sometimes we forget that the value is if it means something to them, unless it's unbiblical, we don't have a right necessarily to take it away from them, at least at the beginning. Respect. Serving humbly. Don't you love people who serve and then tell you that they're serving and how great they are as they serve? You know somebody like that, right, in your church? Is that what you're doing? Y'all just don't know how hard it is to preach. Y'all just don't know how hard it is. You don't know how hard it is. And so you're serving, but you're losing the benefit of serving because you're not serving humbly. By engaging authentically, I'm not saying just make this stuff up. I'm saying you work toward this. It's okay to act your way into feeling. It is. It's not wrong. I'm doing this for the right reasons. I don't feel it. I don't feel warm and fuzzy, but I'm doing it because it's the right thing. How do you engage somebody authentically? You ask them questions. How are you doing? What's going on in your life? How are things happening? What's your greatest victory? These are things that any of us want to be around, and we have the opportunity to become that. Above all, practicing thankfulness. And this is where we're going to end. So I heard the beam. That means it's done. I'm coming to a new conclusion that I've never come to in my life. And I don't think I spelled practicing right. Did I spell practicing right? I did? Okay, I got it right. I learn new software programs every 5 years for my presentation, and the newest one doesn't have spell check, and I'm learning all kinds of things on Sunday mornings. People are paying attention now to my sermons because they can't wait to find a mistake in my presentation. And they'll point it out to me. Last week I made like 3 or 4, and I was like, But I'm coming to a new conviction that thankfulness is the antidote to sin. It's new for me. I don't know if this is completely true or not. Some of you are already there going, well, duh. It's taking me a while. Sorry, I'm slow. Okay. And I'm beginning to think that thankfulness or gratefulness, and I'm sure there's a difference. You can explain that to me later. But the thankfulness is the attitude, the antidote to sin. It's like bleach to bacteria. Right? It just kills it. Imagine the snake sneaks up to Eve and says, hey, God's holding something back from you. You don't have everything that you deserve. So eat this apple. Not an apple, but eat this fruit. What if Eve would have gone, you know what, I am so thankful that God has given me every other tree except for one. I'm so thankful for the 9 million trees, 4 million trees, 12 trees. I don't know what your theology is. But I'm so thankful for that I don't need that one. Some cute girl comes up, guys. Hey, you're kind of cute. Hey, I'm so thankful for what I have at home. I don't need that, ma'am. All right, Randy Travis. But on the other hand, there's a golden band. You don't like country music? Hey, country music, just 3 chords and the truth. That's all it is. That's all it is, man. All it is. I could stay here and be your loving man, but the reason I must go is what? So you're in the wrong attitude here if you don't like country music. Wouldn't thankfulness stop most of our sin and our pride? Wouldn't it just kill it? Oh Lord, I'm thankful that 6 people show up to hear the gospel. And Lord, I'm so thankful that you've given me an ambassadorship that I can stand upon your word and say, thus saith the Lord.
Thus saith the Lord. Amen.
That's what we get to do. So can we be thankful for what God has given us? And most of all, maybe thankful for some of you when we leave today that you can have a new church. Can I pray for you? Oh, Father, you are such a good God. We forget how good you are. We expect our Chick-fil-A to be delivered and have all of our 8 nuggets. We expect all those things. We expect to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. We expect to be rich and smart and beautiful and thin. And where we get these expectations, I do not know, but they are not from you. Because of our sinfulness, we have committed cosmic treason against a holy God and deserve nothing but eternal damnation because of our offense against you. And yet, in your gracefulness, in your mercy, in your compassion. You have made a way for us to no longer be at war with you, but to be adopted into your family. And then on top of that, Father, you've given us the opportunity to be your ambassador to this world. And Father, it doesn't matter if 5 people show up or 5,000 people show up. We are not worthy of any of those things. And so, Father, we can have a new church by tomorrow if we'll just see it differently and be thankful when that pride creeps into our heart, when despair comes our way, when our church turns completely against us. Thankfulness and a recognition of our calling can keep us moving forward for your glory and for the benefit of those around us. For those people in the room today, Father, that would give anything to be in a different church, may you grant them the grace to see that that power lies in their hands.